Frontier was, of course, my first choice. And United hadn't been hiring for years, and they had a real backup. And Continental, they weren't real excited about a woman pilot, you know. But Frontier, I kept trying and trying, and finally, I get a call from Frontier Airlines one day, and they said, "Well, Mr. O'Neill," because I had been, I had been applying so often that my name was up, you know, and people were talking about it. So I got an interview with Ed O'Neill, who was the president of Frontier at the time, and I went into his office and sat down, and he said, "Well," and went through my biography and all that stuff, and he said, "Well, I don't know," he said, "about you know, if this is going to work out." He said, "What would we do for a uniform for you?" And I said, "Mr. O'Neill, that's the least of your problems." And I think that kind of captured him right there. And he said, "Well," he said, "okay." He said, "I would like to have you meet Al Feldman." So the word was really getting around. And Al Feldman was the president of Frontier at the time. And so I met with Al Feldman, and it was really interesting meeting with him. Because the first thing he said, "Well, it's nice to meet you, Emily." And he said, "Would you mind if I make a phone call?" Well, he called his wife on the phone. It was, to me, it was so strange. And he said, and he was talking to her, and I could only hear one side of the conversation. And it was like, "What do you think, you know, there's a woman pilot, wants to be a woman pilot here." And they were talking about that. And I thought it was a strange conversation. And he said, "Well, thank you for letting me talk to my wife." And she happened to be on the board of directors for a huge company in California. So she was like a first woman with the company in California. I'm trying to think of the company name right now. And she was the first woman hired there. So it was kind of a connection. And so that was why he made the phone call to ask her what she thought of it. And of course, she probably said, I didn't hear the other side of the conversation. She said, I think she said something like, "You better hire her, Al." So anyway, I got my job. And I went from being a co-pilot eventually to being a captain.